Hello, in this lesson, I'm going to construct a histogram using a calculator. Before we start, let's review what we did last time. In the previous lesson, we did question number 6 of homework 2.2. And in that question here, we first constructed a frequency, a relative frequency distribution, and then we construct a histogram and a relative frequency histogram and by hand. So in this lesson, let's do the same graph, or the same histogram, frequency histogram by hand. All right, I'm going to take out my calculator. So first, I'm going to enter the data into the calculator. To enter the data, go to Stat. Notice the attic is highlighted, put Enter. And you can enter your data into L1, L2, L3. I already did it in L1. Notice that my data is sorted already. And to make a histogram here, you do not need to sort the data. Okay, so all the data in problem 6 is in L1. So once you've done that, I'm going to go to stat plot. So go to second y equal to, that's just stat plot, and then put Enter. Now you need to make sure your on is highlighted and then pick the type of graph that we want. Now, to make sure to highlight the on, you just put Enter, right? And then use the arrow to go to the next one, right? The arrow. Now, the type of graph here, the one I want is the third one, is the histogram. So the one on the fourth row is the histogram. So highlight it and then put Enter. Now, XList tells me where the data comes from. Now, my data is in L1, so I put L1 here. The default here is just always L1. But if you put your data in L2, you could just put L2. It will give you the same graph. All right. So let's graph it. Now I get a histogram. Well, this histogram looks very different than the one we constructed by hand. The reason that is different because it used different class width. So let's trace to see the detail of this histogram. The hit trace. Now notice that the minimum of the fourth class, the lower class limit of the fourth class is 3, and the lower class limit of the second class is 5, and the lower class limit of the third class is 7, and the lower class limit of the fourth class is 9. Now notice the lower class limit changes from 7, 9, and go back to 5, 2 with an increment of 2. That means the class width using to construct this histogram here is 2. The class width is 2, not 3. We're using a class width of 3 to construct this frequency histogram in part E here. So to make the same graph, I can change the window. Okay, so now go to Window. I click Window, and I'm gonna use the same detailed information I have on my histogram done by hand. So X minimum, I want a minimum of 1 here. All right, this X horizontal axis. I want a minimum be 1. I want the maximum to be 16. I want the increment be 3. The increment here is the class width of 3. All right. Now Y minimum, I want 0. And that's the y-axis. On the y-axis, the maximum is 15. And I use the increment of 3 for the y-axis. So I put 3 here. And then hit Enter. Now hit Graph. Now notice that this histogram is exactly the same as the one I constructed by hand. So let's trace the histogram to see the detail. Okay, note that the lower class limit of the fourth class is 1 and upper class limit of 4 with a frequency of 1, n equal to 1. All right, second class has a lower class limit of 4, which is a minimum, and upper class limit of 7, and with frequency of 4. All right, next class with a lower class limit of 7, upper class limit of 10, with a frequency of 13. The next one has a lower class limit of 10, upper class limit 13, frequency of 15, which is the n. The last one is the lower class limit of 13, which is the minimum. The maximum 16, which is the upper class limit, with angle of 7, which is my frequency. So this is the exact same graph as the one I make by hand. So to recall, to make a histogram by using a calculator, you can use the window to adjust the type of graph that you want. Right? Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.